I now give the floor to the representative of Israel.
Thank you, Mr. President. The threat the world faces from the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction is greater than ever. Advances in science and technology, combined with the evolving nature of terrorism, present challenges never seen before. And nowhere is the threat more real than in the Middle East, where failing states have transformed the region into a breeding grounds for terrorists who now control vast territories and dominate large populations. For the people of Israel, the scale of the danger posed by the combination of terrorism and weapons of mass destruction is not abstract. Israelis have lived with conventional and unconventional threats for decades, and the prospect of terrorism is a daily reality. Israel understands the grave nature of the threat and views the prevention of the proliferation of WMD as a matter of paramount importance for the international agenda. In our period, we have witnessed the shocking erosion of the absolute prohibition against the use of the world's most horrific weapons. We now live in a world in which the premeditated use of chemical weapons on innocent civilians is no longer even treated as breaking news. Nowhere is this trend more evident than in Syria. And there can be no mistake. Primary responsibility for widespread use of chemical weapons in Syria lies squarely at the feet of the Assad regime. This is the same regime which has been killing, attacking, and besieging its own people, supported by Iran and its terror proxy Hezbollah. Last September, the Security Council established a joint investigation mechanism in response to the conclusion of the fact-finding mission of the OPCW, which found, quote, compelling confirmation that a toxic chemical was used, quote, systematically and repeatedly to attack Syrian villages. The JIM was given the mandate to investigate and to identify those responsible for the use of these lethal chemical weapons. Over the course of the past year, as the teams were on the ground working to assign attribution for this heinous war crime, the Syrian regime brazenly continued to use toxic chemicals against its own population. Zaher Sahalul, a Syrian-American doctor who regularly treats the injured in Aleppo and who has briefed his council before, said, and I quote, using chemical agents without accountability has become the new normal in Syria. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, Syrian government forces conducted airstrikes on the Zabadia neighborhood of the besieged city of Aleppo in an attack which was widely reported to have included the use of chlorine gas. We cannot allow this to become the new normal. Assad's actions are not only in violation of international law and an affront to humanity itself, they also increase the chances of weapons of mass destruction falling into the hands of non-state actors. This systematic use of chemical weapons by the Assad regime has created widespread availability of WMD-related material and know-how, paving the way for non-state actors to achieve these horrific capabilities. And make no mistake, its actions lead to further cracks in the non-proliferation of WMD regime. At a time when terrorist groups are increasingly emboldened and practice unspeakable acts of cruelty on a regular basis, the consequences of Assad's actions should be clear to everyone in this chamber. Mr. President, in the face of these dire threats, the international community must show resolve and take determined action to counter proliferation of WMD. Israel views UN Security Council 1540 as an essential tool in this collective effort. This year, we have the opportunity to review the achievements of 1540 and to look ahead with renewed dedication for the full implementation of its provisions. A positive trend has been evident over the years, as a growing number of states have increased their measures for the implementation of 1540. Most prominent have been the legal actions states have undertaken to prohibit activities of non-state actors with regard to nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons, as well as means of delivery. Mr. President, as we look to the challenges ahead, Israel believes there are practical and legal steps which can advance the effective implementation of Resolution 1540. Let me mention 3 steps which can readily be put in practice. First, states must have the tool and the infrastructure necessary to meet their commitments under 1540. States must be further encouraged to report and to update existing reports and to designate a national focal point which would be responsible for reporting and coordinating the national implementation of the resolution. Second, Israel believes that cooperation with the academic community is key. The strengthening of outreach to the academic world can achieve a balance which preserves the independence of academic institutions while safeguarding sensitive technology and know-how against unintentional leakage to non-state actors. Finally, here in the UN, we see room for increased coordination between relevant bodies. For example, expanding the cooperation between 1540 and its group of experts with UN bodies with regard to terrorists and WMD proliferation will help the committee to better equip states to deal with the threats in their own countries. Mr. President, the issue under discussion today is a matter of highest priority for the State of Israel. Let me conclude by outlining the steps that Israel has taken as part of our robust policy aimed at preventing the proliferation of WMD. As detailed in the report submitted by Israel to the committee in 2004 and 2012, Israel has taken wide-ranging legal and practical steps intended to curb proliferation. At the national level, Israel has implemented counter-proliferation measures through legislation and practices which are strictly enforced by relevant authorities. These measures include, inter alia, intelligence gathering and sharing, improving border controls, developing advanced detection and identification devices, enhancing facility and relevant dual-use material security, and export controls strengthening. This multi-pronged strategy is part of Israel's comprehensive approach to prevent the proliferation of non-conventional weapons, as well as to prevent terrorists from acquiring such weapons. As part of the international community's ongoing efforts, Israel is fully committed to act determinedly against this threat. Finally, Mr. President, allow me to comment on what we have heard with regard to the establishment of a WMD-free zone in the Middle East. Israel's long-held vision of a more secure and peaceful Middle East requires that all regional states engage in a process of direct and sustained dialogue to address the broad range of regional security challenges in the Middle East. Such a dialogue, based on the widely accepted principle of consensus, can only emanate from within the region and address in an inclusive manner the threat perceptions of all regional parties with a view to enhance and improve their security. Direct contact, combined with trust and confidence building, is an essential basis for the creation of a new security paradigm in a region that is increasingly fraught with wars, conflicts, disintegration of national territories, and human suffering. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Israel for his statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Turkey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me begin by thanking you for organizing this debate on the challenges in addressing proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, their means of delivery, and related materials. Turkey has aligned itself with the statement by the European Union, and the following are remarks in our national capacity. Mr. President, the security policies built upon WMD capabilities do not guarantee the safety of any country or region, but rather increase insecurity and instability. As a country that has never had an intention to pursue a WMD program, Turkey firmly opposes the development, production, stockpiling, and use of such weapons. We have consistently advocated the elimination of all WMDs. Furthermore, the presence of chemical and biological weapons around its border by state and non-state actors alike constitute a source of security concern for us. With this understanding, Turkey strongly supports the universalization of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, Chemical Weapon Convention, Biological Weapons Convention. Turkey cooperates with the Organization on the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, whose sub-working group on non-state actors has recently been revitalized. Current cases of use of WMD reinforce the calls for a resolute and global approach. No country is immune from the risk of the proliferation of WMDs in the hands of non-state actors, and without enhanced international cooperation, we cannot address these challenges. The 1540 Committee, now a central component of the international security architecture, is one of the important tools at our service in our efforts against proliferation. I would like to reaffirm Turkey's strong commitment to full and effective implementation of Resolution 1540. Turkey has been working with the committee since its inception and contribute its work. We are also a member of the recently established group of Friends of Resolution 1540. Turkey has in place the necessary legislation to implement the Resolution 1540 and abides by and participates in all relevant international legal instruments and voluntary-based ad hoc mechanism on non-proliferation export controls. We also attach importance to collaboration between the committee and other UN bodies such as United Nations Office of Disarmament Affairs, international organizations and mechanisms such as Interpol and Global Initiative to Combat Nuclear Terrorism. Just as the international security environment today differs greatly from 12 years ago, the risk stemming from the proliferation in the hands of non-state actors is also greater and calls for more coherent and robust international cooperation. Comprehensive review process of Resolution 1540 provides a valuable opportunity to strengthen the implementation of the resolution and address the new challenges caused by proliferation of WMDs to non-state actors.
The representative of the Syrian Arab Republic has asked for the floor to make a further statement. I give him the floor.
شكرا السيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Madam President. We're entirely stupefied, perplexed by the hypocrisy of the representative of Israel when he was launching accusations. The Arab proverb is, if you do bad things, if you're guilty of vices, you should hide, as the Arabic proverb says. Everybody knows that Israel is the one who has introduced terrorism into our region, terrorism of weapons of mass destruction, nuclear terrorism, chemical, biological terrorism, radiological terrorism. Israel has introduced its nuclear, chemical, biological weapons to our Arab region. And without Israel's support, and without the support of certain countries of great influence in the Security Council, these nuclear weapons programs, Israel's nuclear weapons and programs would have disappeared long ago. Madam President, Israel has prepared and threatened during the 1973 war, the Yom Kippur War, threatened to use nuclear weapons against Egypt and Syria. Israel has in practice used different kinds of weapons of mass destruction in its aggressions against the peoples of the region. The 1540 Committee seeks to ensure that these biological, chemical, nuclear weapons shouldn't fall into the hands of non-state actors. But Israel has, however, offered all kinds of assistance and aid in the form of weapons and munitions, intelligence to terrorist groups in Syria, especially to Daesh and Jabhat al-Nusra and affiliated groups. In so doing, as usual, it is in violation of all resolutions of this august assembly on combating terrorism. Madam President, Israel is not a party to any treaty on weapons of mass destruction. If it proves one thing, it proves the hypocrisy of Israel and its possession of many kinds of weapons of mass destruction. This council, this august assembly, is called on to assume its responsibilities to prevail upon Israel to put an end to all its military, chemical, biological weapons programs. Madam President, turning to the statement made by the representative of the Turkish regime, everyone knows, also in a report, Security Council reports themselves state that sarin gas has been trafficked from Libya, from Turkey to Libya in commercial airplanes, and that terrorists supported by the Turkish regime have used these weapons in the city of Gaziantep, a Turkish town known now under the name Tora Bora Turk. We demand that the Turkish regime should repudiate these facts instead of trying to throw accusations instead against the Syrian regime, which has shown to the whole world what the regime has been done in terms of the armament, the training, supply, assistance to and access to international terrorism. Islamist terrorism that's coming from Turkish territory. The relevant reports on combating terrorism, including from the 1514 committee, abound with facts underlining the hypocrisy of the Turkish regime and its support and assistance that it gives to terrorists when it comes to using chemical weapons in Syrian territory and stemming from the Turkish border. Madam President, allegations made by the Turkish regime's representative saying that its country possesses no weapons of mass destruction are completely false. These are completely false allegations. There are tactical nuclear weapons of a nuclear country based on Turkish territory. Madam, I thank you.
I thank the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic for his statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.